Hello, beautiful friends. Today I want to talk about a spiritual aspect to healing some shadow wounds or emotional wounds that are in our shadow. There's something that happens in the healing process when you start to really awaken to what's really happened to you and you start to really connect with yourself in that way. You may start to grow and expand, and a big fear might come in. I like to call it the upper limits issue. You may have heard me talk about this before, but it's really this fear of your own light. What is that about? I'm going to explain it in this video. Many of you who I work with or who watch my videos are starting to wake up to a higher reason for why you've had relationships with toxic people, or why you've felt certain ways your whole life, or what kind of dynamic went on in your home to create certain things. And you're coming into a deeper level of healing. And what starts happening when you start reclaiming these deep, beautiful parts of yourself is you start to have what I would call an upper limits issue, a fear of your own light. It's almost like the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. The brighter you become, the more afraid you also become. And so I want to talk about why this is the way that it is sometimes. When we're born into a situation where we are actually made to validate our parents, we were sort of raised in a way to validate them rather than validate our true authentic desires. Whether you had a parent who wanted you to achieve, or you had a parent who had emotional wounds and you were there to cater to them and make them feel better or make them have more confidence. You were kind of, the extension of them type of thing. You may not even know this, but oftentimes I call this the golden child syndrome. When you got really good at pleasing someone and becoming what they needed so they could feel good, you really kind of don't really know what makes you feel good other than making others feel good. And in that situation, you can attract narcissistic partners who also want you to validate them. But also, if you were the scapegoat child and every problem was put on you, you learned that everything was your fault. And so you may have an inner critic that's always telling you you're not enough, that's always telling you need to do more. And then when you do more, it's still not enough. And then when you do start to do the things that you want to do, you get scared because as a child, if you were doing you got in trouble. Upper limits issue. So all of these things start to feel like they make sense, but I understand that there's a scary part of this where you start to realize that this was the reality and this did happen. There can be some grief that comes up that you need to process. But also, it's about realizing now that it is safe to shine. Nobody is going to punish you. I know a lot of people, when they start to come out into the world in a bigger way in their work, I have one client that I'm actually thinking about right now who's doing this, who she's really coming out of the shadow and shining in her light, and she's so afraid it'll be taken away. She's so afraid people will figure out that she doesn't deserve it because no one ever made her feel safe in her light. And she's so afraid that for some reason it just won't feel right. And that's because of a subconscious wounding. That's because we were programmed to think that when we're being who we truly are in our own abundance, we're not safe. We're afraid that when there's more light on us, more eyes on us, that there will also be more daggers around. And even though in some way that's true, because there will be jealous people or there will be people that have opinions, I want you to know that you're not your child self anymore. You're your adult self, and you get to choose that you're safe, and you get to choose the support system you have around you, and you get to choose whether you want to align with others' needs and others' insecurities, or if you want to shine because you are loyal to your own soul. This is a tough process for a lot of people, self included. It's a tough process to come into your authentic self and shine in the world. A lot of people shine because they're in a false reality, a false confidence. And that's easier because the things that reject you aren't really rejecting your true self. They're rejecting this image that you have, right? But when you're coming into the world as your authentic self, there's going to be a lot of opinions. That's just fact. But you get to choose if you want to agree with their opinion. See, there's a piece I talk about a lot, self-abandonment. The biggest fear we really have isn't what someone else is going to think of us. It's that we're going to agree with them and leave ourselves again if they don't like it. If we're not validating them or we're making them feel insecure, what we've done as a child is changed ourselves so that they can feel better. And so part of you, your inner child's part of you, is afraid that you're going to change yourself or leave yourself again if people don't like what you're doing, if people don't feel safe with what you're doing, if people feel threatened or less than because you're growing. Something to think about. In these moments that we have these anxieties that come up, it's because we're afraid we're going to leave ourselves because they've left us. We're afraid that we're going to abandon this growth because someone else, some authority outside of us doesn't like it. But really what this work is about becoming your own inner authority and allowing yourself to shine because you are the light. So the brighter the light, the darker the shadow when we have some shadow work to do. When we have some inner child work to do that says, I'm going to look at this shadow and not let it take me back down and stay small, but I'm going to recognize it and I'm going to see it differently. I'm going to see that I must be doing something right if other people are noticing and having reactions. And it's not your work to make other people feel better, but it is your work to stand in your truth and you feel better, to really initiate or engender the sort of growth in other people. Because if other people are triggered by you being in your light, it means that they're not fully in their own. And they get to rise above too, and that's a choice that they get to make. It's not about being over responsibility for other people's insecurities anymore. It's about you taking your own insecurities head on and becoming your own light. And really aligning your actions with your desires. When we do inner work, our consciousness is expanding. And when the vessel that holds our consciousness isn't expanding, we start to feel in a prison, almost like you've outgrown your clothes. It's time to change clothes. It's time to change the size. It's time to allow yourself to expand into the world as a reflection of your inner expansion. So I just want to encourage you to allow yourself to grow, allow yourself to shine, allow yourself to be the light that you've just turned on inside. I love you guys. Please check the links below for announcements, new courses, discounts, all that stuff's going on right now. So please check the link and follow and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Namaste.